everybody, and welcome to the Plugs podcast. I am your host, Mario Russo, joined by Sammy Brzezowski, Sam Forrest, and Adamo Romoli. Look, we're already messing up off the beginning, so why don't we get into what we'll be talking about, not just today, not just tomorrow, but all the weeks to come when we do this show. Can we restart? That's terrible. Oh my God.
No, we're not restarting. We already lost too many Zoom minutes. Anyways, hi. My name is Adamo. I'm Italian. I don't know why I said it like that. So now you know my name. We have two Samuels with us. It's the first Samuel want to introduce himself.
But I'll take the role as first Samuel. I'm Samuel. I'm also Italian, but it's not really a part of my identity like it is for Adamo. Sport media guy, no biggie. And yeah.
Should we maybe clarify? Talking there is Sammy. So anytime we say Sammy, we're referring to that kid with the 12-year-old voice, but his 40-year-old counterpart and best friend is Sam.
Oh, hi. I'm Sam. I'm Canadian. And
wow, nice.
Yeah.
Likewise, man.
I wanted to follow the trend that you started. Should I name my heritage too?
Mario, you wanna kick off?
Yeah, let's get the ball moving. Well, I'm Mario Russo. I'm also Italian, if you couldn't realize off of that name. So we got two Italians, an ugly kid, and Sam Forrest. So let's get the ball rolling. We are going to talk about this first segment that we're going to introduce, the W of the week. What is the biggest win that we have seen in the world of sports over the last 7 days? Well, it didn't come over the last 7 days. It was about 2 or 3 days ago when we saw Tennessee defeat Alabama. I think it was. Yeah, it was yesterday, Saturday.
Recording, yeah.
At the time of this recording, it might be a little dated, but nonetheless, Tennessee beat Alabama, a massive W for them, an upset, two great teams going at it, and you just saw the beauty of college football. Fans rushed the field after the win, and it was just pandemonium on the football pitch. I the biggest thing about it was that they got fined $100,000 for that, and it's not the first time they've gotten fined, because if you guys are big into college football, or the people listening are big into college football, they have a really toxic fan base, to say the least. They like to throw garbage on their fields. It was a big theme last year. And this year they didn't throw garbage. They all spewed onto the field and took goalposts. I have never seen that in my life. I don't know if I ever will see it. This might be a trend in football. Who knows? But I don't know, guys. Is that like the first time we'll see goalposts get lifted? And I don't even they got out of the stadium too. How did you get out of the stadium with a goalpost?
How did you
man? How
did you get it out of the field first? What aren't they like? I don't know how they're in the ground, but did I guess 10 people had to have grabbed onto it and just
you have that many people, definitely. No, you had a couple beers getting after it.
You had enough people to carry the actual goalpost out of the stadium.
But if that's falling on you, you're picking it up? Aren't you moving out of the way?
I think it's heavy.
Apparently you don't die. They're immortals down in Tennessee, man. I'm not just talking their alcohol tolerance. I'm talking about these guys are willing to take down uprights. Who cares about the damage?
They took the Tide, so they're done. And they jumped into number 3.
I think that's the biggest W. The fact that just Bama lost, because who doesn't love to see that? I'm not even a big college football guy, but when Bama loses, I'm just like, let's go.
I'm a Canadian, but whenever Bama loses, I'm like, all right. When Alabama loses, America wins, and me.
It's like the Cowboys,
It's exactly like the Cowboys, who are currently getting whooped right now as we record this.
Of course they are. That's just how this works. Did you guys see? It was when they take the goalposts out, and they were literally walking out with uprights. Imagine football uprights. They sent out a tweet this evening saying, "This is the official Tennessee Volunteers account." It says, of course they start like this. Y'all remember how we tore down the goalpost, hauled them out of Neyland, and dumped them into the Tennessee River? Yeah, that was awesome. Anywho, turns out in order to play the games next week, we need goalposts on our field. Could y'all help us out? And it's a link to a donation site for them to get goalposts. And apparently, they need $172,000. Is that right?
Not much.
For goalposts.
Goalposts. And they 10,000 people have donated to them. They have 10,000.
That's terrible. How are you falling for that, man?
If I was one of the people who did it, though, I'd throw a couple bucks, throw a couple bones at the GoFundMe.
I didn't even
you know.
get to take like a piece of the upright home. I just got to throw it in the Tennessee River, and now it's just sitting there.
But is that like a college football thing compared to other sports? Like basketball, you cut off the mesh when you win a big game or a championship. Hockey,
never
same
seen
thing. You cut off the net and big, or you keep the net. I've seen some teams do that. At college football, man, they got some really wacky traditions, and I think that's one of them that might be here to stay. I can guarantee you we will see another goalpost incident either in the near future by the end of this season.
Thing.
If they win again, top off, like what if this is a bowl game? Like, what are we seeing in that when it's all stakes are on the line? This is just a regular season game. Granted, it's massive, but I'm sure
they
we'll
might
see
do it again, man. It's the SEC.
You know
It's
what it
the
made me
SEC.
think of? You guys ever watch 22 Jump Street? When they try to take the field goal post down, the whole movie, and then towards the end, they knock it over the car. I was like, someone finally did it. You know,
Tennessee took notes.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if we should get into like what's their name? The Volunteers? Is that what it is?
Yeah, they're the Volunteers. I feel like I looked this up before. Known as the Volunteer State when a large number of volunteers fought in the War of 1812.
Makes sense. Go back to some history. That's cool. Always classic.
And lost, may I mention? They lost.
0-1.
Day one taking L's. Hey, but the most recent day, they took a dub, and that's the dub of the week for plugs. But let's talk about one of the more interesting things that we've seen in the world of sports. And this happened earlier today. This is also has to do with goalposts in another form of football down in Europe. Hull City played Birmingham, I believe the team was, in English Champions League, which I think it's called Champions League. It's the tier below the Premier League, if I'm not mistaken.
The championship.
The championship, rather. Okay, there we go. And this one was, so goalposts getting carried out of stadiums, you might see again in your lifetime. If this is seen in like a professional league again in its lifetime, there are some major issues. What happened was they had to delay the game. Hull City was the home team. They had to delay their game because their nets were a couple inches too tall. I don't know how, first of all, maybe if you're a goalie, I don't know, you'll probably understand that the nets are a little off, but 20-minute delay. And the thing was, they recorded them cutting the nets down, shaving the posts and all that, like getting it back to game speed. And then they went out to lose. Hull City, the team that delayed the game because the goalposts, they lost the game. And when I saw the video today, I started cracking up laughing. I'm sure you guys did the same. Are we going to see that ever again? Like, I don't think that's an L. I think it's an L just because they took it in the game, but that's just pure hilarious.
Yeah. Like in a professional sport, like the championship's like a big deal. It's not like it's, if
it's televised, it's a big deal. And if the quality is good on the television set, it's a big deal. And that's where we saw goalpost get shaved down and the team actually losing as a result of it.
So you were talking about this in the group chat earlier. And like the first thing that came to my head was like, wow, I've never seen anything like this. But then I remembered for a couple years ago, the NFL played a preseason game in Winnipeg. Yeah, I think it was the Packers and the Raiders or something. And the uprights were too close in because, CFL, I don't know how, but CFL, they have the uprights at the front of the end zone. Mm-hmm. So they're setting up the field for play. And then someone's like, hey, wait a minute. The field is 100 yards total, not including the 10 yards that you need for each end zone. So they're like, all right, what are we supposed to do? So they just put pylons down and had an 80-yard field. And it was a preseason game, and it was one of the most embarrassing things I'd ever seen. And I was like, all right, so the NFL's never coming to Canada ever again.
You blew it. You had one shot. Like that's your test, and you blew it. A U.S. team, you want to get an NFL team in Canada? Not anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say they had Toronto on the short list, and then they're like, nope.
Like, no, that's Winnipeg. It's so different, please. It's so much better here.
Winnipeg is like barely in Canada. I don't care. That's a diss to everyone in Winnipeg. Your city is like, it's you know what? It's like I forgot who said it. It's like the most on brand Canada in Canada, like the city of Winnipeg.
Yeah,
like it's always snowy.
There's moose. There's caribou. There's lots of snow.
Of moose,
they have like a hard accent, like Manitoba. Like, like
Manitoba.
That hard, like
probably. They got the Jets. That they only have the Jets, and I guess the Blue Bombers.
The Blue Bombers, yeah.
Well, they're gross in their own regard. Like CFL, they're pretty big.
The Blue Bombers are great.
I have seen that though. not in soccer, but it's happened a couple times in the NBA. Have you guys seen it where like
About the nets?
in warm up where like the net will be like an inch or two too high? They always correct it, but like I've seen it a couple times. Don't quote me, but I feel like I heard that happened in the NBA finals when the Raptors were playing.
Now that you're mentioning it, this could be like a completely wrong memory, but I remember a few years ago, I don't know if it was a TFC playoff game or if it was even TFC, but they were about to start the game and then they're like, the boxes are not even close to the right size. So they had to like repaint over it in the middle of the game. And then like the paint was still wet. So it was like coming off in the middle of the game. That could be completely me making something up, but I feel like that's actually something that happened.
And what's even worse about this, sorry to cut you off, Adamo, it's just that the amount of effort that like these guys have one job. It's to maintain the field or wherever the playing surface is and keep it up to date, keep it up to standard, and they can't even get it right. And it costs them NFL team possibly coming to Canada. Probably not. Like the reputation's down the drain. But as a fan's perspective, it's quite hilarious. And this is why we're talking about it here today.
So I was wrong about it being the Raptors, but literally just the last finals, the Warriors versus Celtics. This was in TD Garden, so in Boston. The Warriors net that they were shooting on in warmups was an inch too high. So
wow, that's such a Boston move.
Yeah,
such a Boston move.
How do you notice that though? How do you like? I guess if you're Steph Curry, you're automatically
also a good question.
They're noticing that. 100%, they noticed that.
I think the uprights pretty easy to point out. You're running routes into the end zone, and then you're just unconscious on the ground.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying it's certainly interesting. Like whatever in the few times when like whatever football game I'm watching is done, and then it turns on to the CFL and I accidentally watch CFL football, like, and they throw a pass and it like hits off the uprights in the end zone. They're like, oh, the extra defender got that one. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. But like a pass was perfect. It just hit off the giant stupid thing that shouldn't be there.
Speaking of CFL football, I have like maybe a debate for us. Cause like me and my friends got into like a pretty heated argument. I feel like I don't know if I've talked to you guys about it, but screw it. I'll say it here. Let's see how much time we have. Who would win a football game? The Toronto Argonauts or the Georgia Bulldogs?
The Argos.
I'd say the Argos as well.
The Argos. Yeah. I think I was saying, I think to Sammy the other day, like I saw this video of like Ocho Cinco, who was like talking. He's like, these guys in the CFL are really good. They're like that close to being in the NFL, but like there's nothing else to compare it to. You're either in the NFL, you're in the CFL, or you're like.
I think it also depends for this what rules you play. If they're playing NFL, it would be a lot closer. If they're playing CFL, it's a wash. Like
that's true.
The Argos would obviously win.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting question. I think the Argos might take it just because they're right there, and like college is, I feel like, just under it.
That's my argument. Like we'll say Georgia, just for argument's sake, we'll say that they're one of the greatest teams ever, aren't they? They're number one right now, right? Is it Georgia?
Oh, I mean, and they won last year as well.
So. Let's say they send 9 players to the NFL. This very draft, they send 9 NFL players. What are the rest? The rest aren't NFL quality, and the rest aren't NFL backup quality. And you think of those 9 players, maybe, again, for argument's sake, we'll say 6 of them are starters. 2 of them are stars, like superstars in the NFL. Like that's enough. But the rest of the Georgia Bulldogs, I don't think could even play in the CFL, because these CFL players are like, they're probably NFL backup level, right?
So a lot of them just want to keep, playing, making the check. Like guys who were just cut or like just aren't going to get playing time. They don't even show up on like the fantasy like waiver wire.
Yeah, they don't even make. They actually make kind of decent money in the CFL too. I didn't realize, like, to make like $100K a year, like to play football for 3 months or 4 months, whatever it is, because Canada, we don't have much time for football.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. So
let's get to, we talked about on-brand Winnipeg. We talked about Toronto sports teams actually winning something against an American sports team. Why don't we talk about the most Toronto on-brand thing? and that is blowing massive leads in large quantities. And we saw that a couple of weeks ago. It couldn't be the L of the week because it didn't happen this past week. I know we're lazy at doing shows, but it happened about a couple of weeks ago where the Toronto Blue Jays were up 8-1. You'll know the story. Over the Seattle Mariners, they choked it, they lost it. What's new in Toronto sports? And now we're here talking about them not in the playoffs. So that's just the trend that keeps on going. Toronto sports, man. Like, are we ever going to get out of that sort of era where it's like 4-1? Well, that's the thing. But for these fans, as you can see, we have something like, it's not always Toronto 4-1, game 7, blah blah blah. Jays 8-1. So like we got a little bit of breathing room. I think that was the best positive we could take from that. I don't know.
Okay, you got to rank the 3 here, guys. Okay, 4. We'll go 4. You got to rank these 4. We'll go 2013 loss to Boston.
Yep.
Jays loss 8-1. 3-1 series lead to Montreal. And Columbus series loss. Rank them worst. Worst being 1. The less worst being 4.
Yeah, I'll kick it off, I guess.
Yeah,
Number 1. All right, the worst one of them all at least has to be Montreal Canadiens blowing that. I'd say just because there's a lot of Canadiens fans and there's a lot of Canadiens fans that don't like to keep their mouth shut. And that kind of allowed that to stay true to what it was. So I'd say Montreal followed by 2013. That was obviously for reasons that it kickstarted this entire trend.
Yeah.
Third one, I'd probably put, I'd go Jays and then Columbus because irrelevant, like in the bubble, irrelevant. They weren't even supposed to make the playoffs. So like that was just bonus hockey coming out of COVID for me.
I have the same order, except I flip 2013. It was the start of my pain coming like in as a Leafs fan, like it will always be the worst one, even though like maybe objectively we could have also won 3 games, but being up 4-1, 4-2 in the third, losing that in overtime, it's still going to be the most painful moment of like my life.
Honestly, I think the 4-1's number 1 for sure. Like that was like the worst thing I've ever seen. 2, I might go Blue Jays. And rich for me because I don't really care about the Blue Jays. Sorry, that's a lie. I care about the Blue Jays, but like I wasn't devastated. I didn't lose sleep or cry like the other blown leads. So I'll go Blue Jays 2 just because of how bad. Like, dude, it was 8-1, and it wasn't like the top of the 6th.
No, it was messed up, man. Like that should not be happening.
They blew it like 9, and they scored an insurance one. They made it 9-6 and still lost it. So they blew an 8-1 lead and a 9-6 lead in the same game. And then I'll go the Montreal one, even though that one hurt me the most. I still think about
hurt me the most too. Like I was sitting in my car for a couple hours, thinking about is it the team I want to cheer for? I came back obviously, and there's still more heartbreak. But go on.
The fact that you weren't expecting the hurt though is tough because I mean I made over $1,300 on that series.
That's
I'm not gonna lie.
Good for you. That's actually really good for you.
See, because of that 2013 game, I knew what to expect. Because of the 2013 game in the Montreal series, I knew the Jays were going to lose. It's just that pit feeling. You get it, and you're like, we're losing this game.
I've told this like little story on, probably told it to you guys, but the Leafs blew that series. Game 7 against the Montreal Canadiens was May 31st, the last day of May. Okay, my birthday is June 1st. So they lose. I'm pissed all night. The game ends at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'm furious. I'm doing stuff. Lord knows what I did to my Marner jersey. And then 12 o'clock hits. Happy birthday.
Yeah, those birthday messages were hitting different, I guess.
I wasn't responding.
Before my internet cuts out again, I'm gonna bang out my list here.
Yeah.
I don't. So for me, I think like 2013 has to be number 1 because it's just like I don't have a lot of memories of the Leafs from being a kid, which is a great blessing because there's not much to remember. But there's one image that is like burned in my head like a branding on a cow, and it's James Reimer just laying down in the crease with his head on the ice. That's the one thing that's been burned into my brain forever. So that's number 1. For me, I'm gonna put the Jays at number 2, which is crazy because like my Leafs fandom is like so much higher than any other sports fandom I have, but I'm still a huge Jays fan. I was at work for that Jays game. So I was watching it on the TV while there were people sitting at the bar and I'm serving them drinks. And I'm like, you know what, guys, you just look at me. You just make eye contact with me and I'll just give me your order right now and I'll just keep them rolling. And so the Montreal one, that season was just such a wash for me because the regular season was so much fun. It was great. And then the playoffs happened and it just didn't feel like the playoffs. It was weird. And then after they lost, I just was like, I have some friends who are like literally at the park across the street from my house. I'm going to go forget that this game happened. And that's exactly what happened. So I'm fine with that. The bubble, I actually enjoyed just because there had been no hockey for forever. I'm fine with that. Whatever. Who cares? Just don't do it again.
A lot of Toronto sports cells is the common theme in this show, and probably will be.
A lot of Toronto sports, and not a lot of it is happy because Toronto sports. That's not really.
Although it makes someone tweeted this, it makes the Raptors run a lot more impressive. That the only American
they're going against a curse, a city.
How did they do that? How did they do that?
No idea, but we're running out of time. Mario,
we let's get back on course to conclude the show. We got the L of the week that happened to the Los Angeles Dodgers in the MLB postseason. They were a 100+ win team, but Dodgers lose. There's a lot of salty Dodgers fans out there, much like what other fans were. Toronto fans, for God's sake, are also somewhat toxic, and they got a good taste of what it's like to lose to a rival, and a good taste to lose early rounds. So we got Toronto themes moving to LA. Is there anything better than that?
This is great. I love this. LA sports
is on the decline, and I love it.
Maybe
finally,
let's
right?
hope.
So Westbrook
honestly,
sucks.
They don't need it. But it's funny, the two teams who had the highest World Series odds at the start of the season, the Dodgers and the Blue Jays, are both out very fast in the playoffs. So it's pretty.
So what does that mean, Sammy? What's the lesson we can take from this?
The lesson we can take is don't trust the odds and always bet on the Angels, the Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was just gonna say
the
don't
New York
bet on
Jets.
baseball.
The Detroit Lions.
Don't bet on baseball. It's literally
baseball's weird.
I don't bet on baseball. The only time I bet on baseball is when we go to a Jays game and we hammer first pitch strike. I remember going to Jays games sitting like greasy 500 nosebleeds, and we're just all degenerate gamblers sitting looking for the first pitch to be a strike, and it's a strike. We all stand up, we're like, let's go. And then there's like women and children from like the 200 staring up at us like, are these guys okay? It's like June. It's the first pitch in June against like the Detroit Tigers, and these guys are like off their rockers already.
Stone cold sober too. We were 18 at the time.
Oh, stone cold sober.
Just amazing. Look at us.
Okay, so things we've learned today from day one in the Plugs podcast: goalposts can be moved, goalposts can be trimmed, goalposts can be carried. We also learned that Toronto sports will never change. LA and California sports most definitely will. And this is the Plugs podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Plugs podcast. Tune into the next episode, I guess, whenever it may come out. We appreciate your support, and we can't wait to the next one. Cheers, guys.